back to the channel. My name is Crawford. This is Virginia's Flow Riders. And again, and again, and again, for the last a whole lot of weekends and a whole lot of days, we're working on the Mazda. We're making progress. I'm not sure how much we're going to get done because I have tonight and tomorrow. I've been fiddling around with some stuff this week, but I haven't really had a chance to come out here. And then today, friends came by. I bought some wheels that I don't think are going to work, and we wasted a bunch of time going getting the tires dismounted because I don't have a tire machine anymore. There's a lot. But if you've never been here before, we are building a Mazda B-Series truck from beginning to end, showing at literally every step, probably too many steps, but there's almost 40 videos uploaded of this so far. I go through everything. The 3-link process, the tubing process, the body drop, engine modifications, you name it. If it was on the truck or if it's on the truck, it's probably been cut, ground down, welded. Something's been done to it. And we're going to continue to do that process for the rest of the truck. Most likely next week, the door jambs are going to get painted. As long as the weather stays the way that they say it's going to on the weather, which it doesn't seem like they're ever right. It's supposed to be like mid-60s Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. If that happens, I'll be able to prep and paint the door jambs. And after I get the door jambs painted and prepped, and the bottom of the hood, because that needs to be painted, then I can put the interior back together. If I can get the interior back together, that is a huge, huge step in progress. But I don't want to go too long into rambling because I get carried away. Again, if you've never been here before, rambling, ADD, jumping back and forth, the things that I do. I try not to, but it happens. This weekend, we're going to, I think we're going to tackle mounting the battery somewhere in this area. I made a battery box like 10 videos ago. It's too wide. We got some different battery options now. We're changing it up, changing battery location from what I initially thought I was going to do. So yeah, let's just get into it. So I don't continue to ramble for 10 minutes like I normally do because we don't have that much time. We need to get as much done as possible. We're going to start with the battery thing this week. Wednesday, Thursday, maybe Tuesday, I think. Not totally sure. I came out here, completely stripped the cab harness from the dashboard to the cab wall. Completely stripped, reloomed, retaped, checked over every wire for the cab to the rear up to the taillights. You can see this rather large pile of tape and loom that I need to clean up, and I need to clean the rest of my garage because it's been a catch-all all week and a lot of random stuff going on. So now that that is all loomed, which I've been putting that off for a while, I can basically run that in the cab somewhere. I got to try to stick to it coming out of the passenger side, which I was trying to avoid, but the more I think about it, the way that the harness is extended and stuff, if I ran it down the driver's side, my taillights would be backwards. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'm going to try and run that on that side and get that all loomed in. And then, I don't know what I'm doing with my hand today. And then we're going to try to wire the air compressors on this side, I believe. That way it's pretty much the same amount of wiring on each side, and we can continue to keep everything relatively symmetrical because it helps with OCD problems. So we're we need to potentially pop some holes in the cab. There's a lot of things on the chicken scratch list up there on that random piece of sticky paper that need to be done. Not all of them are stuff that I'm assuming people want to watch because I wouldn't personally want to watch it. So if there's anything that y'all want to see me do, just let me know. Because I kind of skim past some things. I do a lot of more in-depth things than most channels do. But if there's anything that I'm missing that you have questions about, comment. Message me on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. There's tons of people that have already messaged me and already talked to me. I don't mind talking to any of y'all. Just, yeah, I don't mind.
Oh, it is. It actually is recording. So, on this week's video, guys, Chris is on his 5th set of wheels for this thing. And he has a problem. And we're going to have an intervention for him for buying 6 lug wheels. So, join us. And we're going to have a little prayer group. There's going to be coffee and cookies there. We're going to have a good time. GoPro, stop recording. I come in at night and do all the work on this. Yeah, it might not fit on the front. This could be like a behind the scenes. Look, he's not in his flannel and he's not in a Virginia's for Lowrider shirt.
He owns other clothes.
He owns other clothes. The real truth behind Virginia's for Lowriders. He has a life. He has a life outside of building a truck.
Not much of a life.
Yeah, that's true.
He's a car hermit.
Yes. It looks really good on camera.
It was great on camera. Crap in person.
¿Qué pasó, amigo?
Hey, vato!
¿Qué pasó? Yeah. I bet that thing is way inward and it's going to hit the shop. Look at your flare on the bumper. That is the same length as the fender.
Before I forget, a couple shout outs. Sean, thanks for sending me stuff in the mail. If y'all have watched, I don't know, the last 6 videos, I keep saying that I welded actually, it's probably even longer than that. Whenever I welded the clutch pedal assembly higher, I mentioned that I pretty much turned the spring into mush. So I wasn't sure what it looked like before this happened because I didn't pay attention to it. But my buddy James is over here and he's watching it and he goes, yo, 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 the spring is literally glowing orange. And we look down and the spring looked like this. So it just looks normal. And I didn't know what it was supposed to look like because I didn't pay attention to beforehand. So Sean sent me one. And actually, I texted him and I said, man, I think you sent me the wrong thing. Because what you sent me is way smaller. And then I carried it outside and I put them side by side. And I realized that mine is just that blown out, I guess you could call it. That's what it's supposed to look like. So I definitely ruined that. And thanks, Sean. And thanks, Rick. I actually got his name now because he commented. Thanks, Rick, for coming up with the idea for the hardline. Because I don't think about these things. Because bags isn't really my thing. Mostly hydraulics is where I'd go with everything. I built bag vehicles for friends. I've just never done hardlines. So he actually came up with the idea of running hardlines between the bag. Thanks, Rick. I don't know. I got to get back into something. It's really... No, I did not go in the house and change into a different welding jacket. It's a different day. And we didn't get anything done yesterday. Yesterday consisted of friends. Like I said, the tire shop. A lot of talking. A lot of back and forth. A lot of trying to get this wheel to fit this truck. And it's still really close to the frame rail. And I think it's going to touch the bed. It didn't work out. So, we're getting back on the stuff we can actually get done. And me not buying more wheels. The whole thing with that, I talked to this guy for like 3 days, back and forth, about trying to pick these wheels up from him. They had tires on them. Worked out a deal. It was a whole thing. Had to drive to go get them. Everything that I Googled for hours, it seemed like. came back with no results on the offset of those wheels before I bought them, so I could have did the math and figured out if they were actually going to fit or not. The only thing I could find the offset on for Tundras was the 5-lug version, not the 6-lug version. And the 5-lug looked like a different wheel, so it's similar. It turns out I could run it in the front with a 1/4-inch spacer, which I'm okay with. In the rear, I could run it with a 1/2-inch spacer. And to do a 1/2-inch spacer, I'd have to buy longer studs. And I don't know if I'm willing to get into all that just to make these wheels work. But the whole problem with these, like I've mentioned multiple times, and I keep buying cheap sets of wheels, and I should just suck it up and order some wheels, they touch the inside of the bed. So I'm like in this weird in-between thing, and it just hasn't worked out. But I gotta get something done, because I got wiring done this week. And wiring's not exciting. So we need to cut up the battery box, like I talked about yesterday. I made the battery box for this battery. This battery is, like I mentioned before, about 1 inch or so wider than that battery. And I'm trying to get the box to fit in between these bed mounts on the other side, I believe. So I need to narrow this, make it fit that battery, and just get something accomplished. That's the goal. By the end of the day, accomplished and something sort of entertaining to watch. To put a little bit more explanation on it, because I went back and rewatched that, I have the Titans. I like the Titans. The Titans fit before the body drop, and everything was hunky-dory. But they don't fit now because they touched inside the bed. I bought Bronco wheels, cheap. Like, they didn't cost a whole lot of money. The offset is good, and the offset will work. But I'm not totally sold on the look of the Bronco wheels. I bought them just strictly to have something to run in case I don't end up wanting to modify the bedside. I know they'll work. I just got to put tires on them. The whole idea behind all of these wheels that I'm trying to find is I want something that replicates the, the SR5 or whatever Mazda steel wheels. Like the white, they usually came in like white with like a little black inlay, or they came in chrome or whatever. These are 2023 Tundra wheels, and they replicate that wheel in a larger size, and I really like them. It's just the offset it's a lot. It's almost a flat face wheel. So with no spacer, this was very, very close to the C-notch. This is with 2/4-inch spacers stacked up on there. As you can see, there's no stud sticking through, and the lug nuts are barely threaded on there. So this would work, and I'm cool with this, and I like the way it looks. It's an 18. It looks like a stock wheel-ish. I don't know. Maybe y'all can help me decide. I need to make a decision. Modify the bed for the Tundra wheels. Suck it up and spend more money than I'm comfortable spending getting custom wheels. Because the whole thing behind this is I want the truck to resemble a factory truck, but exaggerated. I want it to be completely stock body to an extent, some modifications, like subtle ones, with exaggerated factory wheels and body dropped. That's the end goal. I actually have a friend of mine's wife doing a rendering that I can hopefully show y'all in the next episode. The last time I spoke to them, they said they were pretty close to having that buttoned up. So I need to figure it out, because I've spent way too much time trying to figure it out. I don't really want to get into narrowing the axle. I know it's an option. I don't really want to get into, but I don't know. The wheel studs are cheap. I could probably pull that off for under $100 to make it work with spacers and studs. And spacers don't bother me. They bother a lot of people. I run spacers on my 2500. I have spacers in the back of my daily driver just to get the wheel offset just where I want it. and I've never had any issues out of the little shim ones. I don't like spacer adapters. I'll put that out there. Not my favorite thing. But the shim ones, perfectly fine with me. But yeah, I'm just gonna stop talking because we haven't got anything done. I don't know what it is this weekend. It's just not working out. Okay, after this like 30 more seconds of this wheel explanation thing, I might have been overthinking this with the Broncos. And the Broncos might be perfectly fine if I paint the Broncos. Broncos are cool. They got machine stuff. Yeah. So, my options, Titans, Tundras, factory wheels is what I'm trying to replicate. So you can see I'm just thinking exaggerated style of factory wheel. But one thing I didn't take in consideration, this truck is an 86, I think. So if I'm going with older and potentially changing the style of factory wheel, because there are a few options, Bronco wheels kind of resemble these. If you squint real hard, you can see what I'm saying here. It just they remove the inlay portion of this wheel. So Bronco wheels maybe painted silver like those wouldn't be too bad. Let me know what y'all think. I need help deciding. I can't figure this out. Can't figure it out at all. GoPro stop. All right, get the battery box all trimmed up. I was trying to go for something a little bit more matching than a square box with some holes in it. So I was thinking I got all of these nice round shapes that I cut and everything. So rounded that, rounded the back of it, and the sides. Turned out kind of cool. I ran out of argon from a TIG welder, so I don't feel like going to the shed to get that. So I'll finish welding that later. Got this random piece of steel that's bent into an angle. I'll lay that along the frame. It sits flat on the frame. Take my Sharpie, draw a line here and there, trim that to fit that. Weld this onto the back of this. That'll give me a place to potentially bolt this down to the frame. And I'm thinking maybe a little bracket that comes off of this side that I can drill through this plate potentially, or through the frame, or somewhere. You gotta figure out where to put bolts in it. Can't really go to the back because I don't have enough depth for a bolt to actually fit in there. So see what we can work with here and try and get this all mounted up real quick. Came up with a couple different ones here. This one slides down in there, meets the angle of that. This one meets the angle of the back of the box. This one meets the angle of the bottom of the box. You can see that one lays flat on there, flat on the frame, nice and smooth. And that one meets the frame angle and goes onto the box also. So I can put bolts here, I can put a bolt through here, and a bolt through the bottom. And this thing will be pretty stout. I think for today, I'm gonna do self-tappers here just so we can continue this train of getting something done. So I'm gonna weld it on there, self-tappers, and then we can set the battery in and hopefully start making some cables. That's the plan. I'm gonna put another bulkhead fitting in the back of the cab, and then we can make a cable from the battery to the back of the cab, and then hopefully do something else today. Moment of truth. I don't have this side bolted in, but with the self-tappers holding it there temporarily, I think this will work just fine. I got a little bit of wiggle room. It's not too tight. I think I'm going to pull the ends out a little bit. I think during the welding it kind of curled in, but so far it's looking pretty good. I need to pop a hole in the front and the rear, hopefully, for my J-bolts, so it can actually be held in place. That doesn't look too bad. So like I explained in the, I think the last video, I'll go through and I'll put self-tappers in everything and then spend like 2 hours taking the self-tappers out, drilling them the correct size, and then tapping them and putting a bolt in. I look at a self-tapper not as a permanent solution, but as a basically pre-drilling. It's like a really easy pre-drilling mock-up tool. I try not to leave them in there. There's no way that I would leave the battery held in with self-tappers. But again, Amazon comes up with some wild stuff. I don't understand how they sell stuff so cheap. China, they have these billet aluminum battery hold downs that actually look kind of cool. And they're really, really cheap. The whole kit with the J-bolts and the aluminum thing is like $11. So this will go somewhere in there. I gotta pop a hole in the back and a hole in the front. The J-bolts will do their J-bolting. So I'll do that real quick. That way we can make sure we make clearances and everything for this to be there permanently. Drill that real quick. So initially I was thinking positive coming off of here. Make sure you can see this. Positive coming off of here and going to the cab. But that cable would be so short, I believe it would be too tight. It doesn't give it any room for vibration and movement and everything that it needs. I'd like to use the bulkheads here. Pop a hole basically just right underneath these guys. I believe I want to turn the battery around. and run it like this to the bulkhead. Not this cable, I need to make a new one, but I think that that would be somewhat better. That way it's a smoother arc. I don't have to bend this thing like this to get it to hook up to the bulkhead. And I don't have to worry about a positive cable possibly chafing on that body mount. The only thing that I'm not too excited about is how close these are going to be to the bed, but they'll still be kind of far away because they'll be set like this, so it'll still be, I figure the bed will be in here, probably about there. That's a pretty good gap, I guess. It's probably going to be a pain in the butt putting the bed onto the truck, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Alright, my battery died. Went inside, edited, lunch, back out here, trying to get this knocked out. I got the bulkhead mounted in the firewall, or cab wall, I should say. With it being in here, I can just run another lug off of here and continue it in this little trough thing all along that side up to where the other bulkhead that we put in a couple weeks ago is, and I'll make a fuse panel and everything else in there. That cable that I didn't think was going to work actually fits in there pretty good. So I used these because I don't know what accessories I will be eventually adding to the truck. This gives me room for expansion. One thing I do want to do, because the battery's in here, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to try to jump start it at the engine, is I bought a couple of these little jump start posts. Again, Amazon, cheap stuff, but it's decent looking. I mean, I've bought the ones from Summit and Jegs over the years, and they look exactly the same as those. I was thinking with these, come off of the battery and come up into the inside of the bed rail and just mount these in the bed rail. You can throw a little cap on there, but if I ever needed to, I can just jump the truck from inside the bed and they'd be completely out of the way and a little dented now. So now that that's mounted up, we need to continue to chip away at all these totes that I have that are full of parts. This was the compressor harness before. This ran all the way from the back all the way up to the battery in the front. Now that the battery's back here, I need to figure out where exactly I want to put this. Not entirely sure if I want to keep these outside or try to mount them inside the cab. Need to figure this out real quick, because if I mount it outside, it means the fuses will be outside and impossible to get to. So I'm kind of thinking somewhere in the cab. The factory plug hole, I guess you'd say, was down here, and then the body drop, of course, right raise it up to where I couldn't get to it. So popped a new hole in there, new hole in here for the power wire for the compressors. Had a little rubber grommet. I ran the taillight harness already in there. I need to run this basically along with that. I'm gonna cut those zip ties off and run them together. The taillight harness will be ran underneath. I do not know why they make these so long. I guess I don't know how they were routed from the factory, but that thing is, it's unnecessary. That's a lot of extra wire, and both sides are like that. It's kind of weird, but that's ran. That's ran. We got some progress going on. I really want to try to get these jams painted by next weekend. So I think what I'm going to do right now is pull the doors off, because there's some of that dreaded green paint in between the door jambs. And I'm going to go ahead and get these pulled off. Even though I have no idea how they come off. I'm assuming they're little plugs on the inside. Maybe there's bolts on the back. I'll try and pull these off and the doors. Yeah, you see, it's already like 8 o'clock. So I gotta hurry. If you're really simple to remove the doors, they have these little pins right here. And then just 4 bolts. So, little tip for removing doors by yourself. Just shut the door if you can access the bolts. Don't try to do it with the door open. Depending on the vehicle, I'm going to say it works with every one of them. It's not all of the bolts you can access like that. Depending on the vehicle, it'll just stay there, and then you can just open the door instead of trying to position everything and end up dropping something and ruining something, especially if it already has nice paint on it. But you see right here, that beautiful green paint that I can't seem to get away from. So I'm going to try and paint the entire jam all the way around. So I need to hopefully get all of this scuffed tomorrow and primed tomorrow. Depending on the flash on that primer, I don't know if it's wet on wet or if it's next day. I can't remember which one I bought. Maybe even painted tomorrow. I've never had one of these off. There is some bolts back in there, or some nuts. I'm going to assume it's just those and maybe a little bit of dum-dum gluing it in place or something. There's 2 more bolts at the top. So it's 5 bolts and a clip. Didn't get nearly as much done as I wanted to this weekend, but again, stuff came up, being busy. We got progress. The battery's finally mounted to the truck, which I've been talking about that for like 2 months at least. So one more time before I get off of here, I want to thank all of y'all for subscribing. We are probably like 5 away from 2,000 subs now, which is pretty awesome because we hit 1,000 like 4 months ago, 3 months ago. It's crazy. So thank you all for subscribing, and everybody that's subscribed has watched this video. Comment and let me know which one of these I should make work. They're all 18s, even though this looks bigger because the tire's on there, of course. I'm kind of leaning towards this. If everybody votes this, I'm going to paint it. I think that's the only way that I can, like, be okay with that being on the truck and being a newer style of a wheel. If I do this, I have to come up with some weird studs, spacers. If I do this, I have to modify the bed. There's no way around it. I'm not gonna cut up the rear. I've decided I just don't want to mess with that. If anything, I would push the bed sides out, which I'm not really looking forward to. Those shouldn't need pushed. These need adapters. These, lots of modifications and camber in the front. So do me a favor, let me know what you think. I'm gonna kind of put this up to y'all and your decisions. I'm leaning towards this being painted. It'll just cost me a little bit of money and time to make them kind of like a more, I don't know, you know what I'm getting at. So again, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for doing all the likey and YouTube and all the randomness and everything that everybody asks you to do every time you watch one of these videos. And go back and watch all of the 37 videos or whatever we're at now. And I will see y'all next Sunday. And I'm putting paint on it regardless. My mini split's not going to be happy about it, but I'm going inside. See y'all next Sunday.